Alright, let's get started.
Fine.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Lunchtime. I'm Noah Hiles. He is
John Bozkea.
And John, over the weekend, we had a lot of different sports going on. We had the XFL Week 2, which quarterback play, a problem in that league.
You know, actually, I can tell you that someone that I'm very close to went to a game this past weekend.
Yeah.
My dad and my brother went to see the Houston game yesterday.
Okay.
Which I don't know how I felt about that. I was very disappointed.
Did they play Dallas?
I don't know who they
Okay.
played. I was very disappointed in them for going.
Oh, come on.
But they said it was an entertaining experience. They said that it was exciting in the sense that, well, no, not exciting. They said it was disappointing in the sense that they wanted them to go for 3 at one point, and nobody was willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but, I mean, they said it was a decent experience.
And what's even a better experience was another event that took place yesterday and will continue at 4 o'clock today, and that is the Daytona 500, which was postponed due to rain.
Which is like the first time since 2012 that's happened.
Something. Are you a big NASCAR guy, John?
You know, I used to be.
Really?
I used to be into it a lot. I mean, I know, like, here's the weird thing. I know a lot about, like, the history of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can, like, name you a lot of, like, famous racers, but, like, I can't really do much more than that.
Okay.
I can tell you that Richard Petty is famous. I can tell you about Dale
Intimidator. Senior.
I can
Raise hell, praise Dale.
That's right. I can also tell you that there was a guy named Fireball Roberts that was a great driver back in the day. Tiny Lund won the Daytona 500. I'm disappointing the people with this discussion right now, so I'll stop.
Okay. Well, I think the Daytona 500 is probably one of, if not the biggest American sporting events, aside from the championships in the major 4 professional sports and the 2 major college sports.
I would agree with that.
I would say that and the Masters is the only thing maybe above it, as far as iconic American sports. My dad has actually attended a Daytona 500. My grandparents live in Daytona, about 2 miles from the track, and they have a
It's
million
a pretty
friends
big stand.
Yes,
isn't it?
it's huge.
Can't they fit like over 100,000 people in there?
And he said it was pound for pound. And he's been to NHL playoff games, Steelers playoff games, whatever. But he said it was the best sporting event that he's ever attended live. So for today's show, in honor of the Daytona 500, I thought we could debate unique sporting events that we would either want to attend as fans or cover, being that we both work in sports media.
You know, you left one off here, the Gloucester cheese roll.
The cheese roll, and there was another one I left off. It was the wife carrying contest.
I've seen that
which
before.
is in Sweden. I tried to keep these
amazing stuff.
more. I mean, these are. I would say they're not mainstream, but they're all pretty well known. These ones, and so we have a list of 5 where we're going to debate. John picked one side of it, and I picked the other.
If you said these to the average person,
they would know
what they are.
Except for maybe this first one, and it goes along to play off the Daytona 500. I'd argue that these are probably the 2 most world-famous races.
Sure.
If not the Daytona 500 or the Indy 500, and it would be the Monaco Grand Prix and the 24-hour Le Mans.
Yeah.
So you took the 24-hour Le Mans.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
I just feel like from a standpoint of pure racing, that this really, because of its history, being such an old event, being such a big thing with endurance, you know, I mean, and there's been so many movies that have been made about
Ford
it too.
versus Ferrari, have you seen that?
Ford versus Ferrari was about it. There was a movie in the 70s with Steve McQueen, Le Mans, that was about it as well. So it's one of those cases that this is a pretty mainstream event. I mean, not that a ton of people know about it, but it's been significant in the advancement of cars. It's been significant in the advancement of racing.
Yeah.
And because of that, there's been lots of famous, like, drivers that have been a part of it. Like, not guys that you would know, like, that have driven on the NASCAR circuits, but guys that are known for being, like, world-class drivers, world-class engineers, world-class things have been involved in this. And it's been really big for the advancement of motorsports.
Yeah. So I took the Grand Prix simply... My main reasoning would have been it's not 24 hours like the Le Mans is. And I think that's interesting. However, if I'm covering an event for 24 hours, obviously I'd imagine you would not have the entire broadcast to yourself. You would do it in shifts. But still, the prep, I mean, I think, what do we do? A week worth of prep for a 3-hour high school football game?
Pretty much.
Yeah. So imagine the prep of the things you would have, the air that you would have
to
fill on that. And they used to broadcast those on the radio, so that's nuts. The Grand Prix is actually one of the shortest races. That's not a sprint. And the track is, to do one lap on the track is about 80 seconds altogether. And it's 190 total miles worth of a race. It's the most dangerous race because they're in the second smallest country in the world. And they're just driving on the roadways. And they're going in tunnels. There's 19 corners and only 2 straightaways on the entire track, which means it's more about strategy and less about having the fastest car, which I think is very interesting.
See, and that's what I think is interesting about the Le Mans, too, is that you're also in a situation of that you have to build a car that is built for endurance over 24 hours.
Built to last.
Yeah, so I mean,
Dodge Ram.
You know, so you're not going to go out and you're not going to find a car that's going to suck in this event, you know, which is cool.
Yeah.
You know, in other cases, you could build a car that's good for like 3 hours and like can go really, really fast, but doesn't do anything else well. So like in the Le Mans, there's a lot more strategy that's going into it.
Yeah, and it's a team. Like you have to have a team that can.
I actually think it would be cool to cover something for 24 hours too, because
it's a marathon.
It would be a constant. Like in today's world, I think this would be really cool because of social media. Like you could be following along the whole way. Like if you were a reporter doing this, like and you were smart about it, you would set up a string where you have one person at one stop, one person at another mile marker, another person at another stop, and like if you're the first person, you could cover your stop, and then advance forward and go to the end of the race and see who wins. Mm-hmm. And to me, that would be really cool.
All right, so moving forward, number 2 was the World Cup against the Olympics. And we did not specify if it was Summer or Winter Olympics or Men's or Women's World Cup. We just said World Cup versus Olympics. John, you took Olympics. I took World Cup. I'll start with why I chose World Cup. I think the World Cup is the world's biggest sporting event. While the Olympics, I think, you know, they go over a longer span of time, I like that this is just one centralized sport. This is the world's most popular sport. I also find it interesting that this isn't an American-dominated sport. It gives American fans 2 weeks of opportunity to pretend like they care about soccer, which I always find very enjoyable. I think that this, you see the passion of how much the game of soccer or football means to the rest of the world during this. Like when there's small countries like Iceland or Spain when they won their first World Cup for the first time, I believe it was in 2010. You know, just to see how much that means. I mean, that's like a Super Bowl on steroids for them, and it's for a whole country, which is super cool. I would love to see the U.S. win one, which kind of brings me to another point where how much pride the women's national team has brought into America. And at times, I mean, over this, you know, past year with how divided our country can be on certain issues, to see everyone come together and cheer for the American women's national team, who just absolutely dominated everyone that they played against, was really fun. And there's a lot of legendary moments in the World Cup. I think more memorable than Olympic moments. We remember the U.S. Olympic moments. You remember the Zidane headbutting the Italian guy.
Yeah, sure.
And I wasn't there for it personally, but you hear about Maradona's goal, the hand of God, and things like that, where guys, you know, Messi is considered one of the best soccer players of all time, but he will never be on Maradona's level until he wins a World Cup, which he has yet to do.
Well, and part of the reason why I went with the Olympics is because there is nothing older that is like more revered to win than an Olympic gold medal.
It is the invention of sport.
Like if you win an Olympic gold medal, it's because you are winning it at a sport that is still at its purest form due to like just you being an athlete.
Yeah.
Like swimming, endurance of running, like skiing is huge in the Winter Olympics. Like, and that's the thing, is that you have these sports that when you look at them, curling aside, you know, that are truly built for the true athlete. You know, like,
and then there's ping pong.
There is. And
badminton.
Part of the reason why I love watching the Olympics too is because for a couple weeks I care about rowing. For a couple weeks I care about swimming. For a couple weeks I can care about curling. For a couple weeks I can care about sports that, like, if someone was like, hey, you know, down in Canton there's this big curling tournament, I'd be like, what is that? A bunch of schmoes that are going to try to rub ice?
Sounds like a news story that I'll get 1,000 views on Facebook.
So it's like, it's something that makes you care about sports that you would otherwise never watch.
The Olympics are a macrocosm of just supporting your high school team. Like, I remember going to high school wrestling matches and volleyball games, sports that I'm really not that into, but you go to support your school, you go to support your friends, and, we're all part of the same high school here in America.
Speaking of high school wrestling, Louisville, Division II state champs, congratulations.
Congrats to the Leopards. Let's go Leopards. But yeah, I don't think you go wrong on either way. These are two events that I would love to cover.
And that's the thing is, like, if I was told, like, tomorrow, like, you have the choice to cover either of these events, I would do it.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So moving forward, we got to speed up the pace a little bit here. The Little League World Series versus the X Games. John, you chose the X Games. Tell me why.
This was the hardest choice for me. I really didn't want to choose either.
Really?
I could care less about the X Games, and I could also care less about the Little League World Series.
Okay.
To me,
which surprises me.
Because to me, they are, like, exactly what they are. Like, I don't... Like, Little League is Little League. Like, and I think people take it too serious. Like, I really do.
You're a guy who gets paid to broadcast high school sports, which is, like, 3 years later in these kids' lives.
Yeah, but I still... Like, I don't like how serious Little League is taken. Like, I just...
I
think it should still be at a point...
Have you watched the Little League World Series a lot?
Like... bits and pieces.
Then you don't understand it then, because it's really not. I think the way it's covered is great. It makes it gives 12-year-olds a moment where they get to feel like the superstars that they look up to. But at the same time, they do it the right way.
My name is
where they talk about, it emphasizes the fun that's in the game of baseball, that, everyone falls in love. The reason why everyone falls in love with it. That was a tough hit to the mic there. But it also keeps things in perspective, like sportsmanship that you love so much. And my family also has a history of attending the Little League World Series. We're from central Pennsylvania. Some of my family is, so they go to it, like the Hill, all that good stuff.
See, part
it's
of the
such
thing
a unique
is,
event.
Like where I was at in Akron, like the advancement of Little League, I didn't have a good experience with it because, like, I didn't like the people that were involved. Because, like, I remember my brother played a year of coach or kid pitch, and he would never swing at anything because it was never over the plate. And, like, the coaches would get upset at him, and they would be like, "You need to swing at stuff." And he'd be like, "Well, I'm just gonna walk to base every single time because, like, what's the point?" And, like, they didn't like that.
Your brother would have been wearing a Noah Hiles 55-mile-per-hour fastball.
And, like, they were, like, thinking, like, why are you doing this? So that was just kind of the thing. And then the X Games, I don't know. I will say this. I am enamored by people that can, like, do cool tricks on a skateboard or, like, do cool things with, like, a bike or, like, things like that. Because, like, that's something that I could never imagine doing. So, like, it is something that's cool to me, but, like, it's not something that, like, I'm going to be like, I have to go cover that. Like, maybe if Tony Hawk was...
I was going to say, it hasn't been the same. Tony Hawk just slaps different.
That's the thing, is, like, when people are like, Tony Hawk, I'm like, greatest skateboarder of all time.
We all played the video game.
Yeah, dude.
That's it hasn't been the same. But what I will say about the Little League World Series also, my concluding argument on that, I think it's cool when you have, like, these 14-year-olds or 13-year-olds who can throw, like, 90 from that tiny mound or can hit bombs. Like, I find that interesting, and the strategy behind it, basically, like, if you hit the ball in play, there's a very good chance you can get an infield single because the bases... It's an entirely different game, but I think it's cool to give these kids just one shining moment that... I mean, some of them go on to be in the MLB, but for the rest of them, I mean, this is... They get to feel like a big leaguer for a couple weeks. I think that's awesome.
Next one that you chose, the Rugby World Cup or the Tour de France. I chose the Tour de France. Why did you choose the Rugby World Cup?
Really one reason. It's a huge party. Rugby is known to be the biggest party sport, and my name's Noah, and I like to party. So I think that would be cool. That and another reason that I liked it is...
Shows that I'm formal.
Yeah.
But I'm here to party.
Yes.
Go ahead.
It's probably the main event here out of all of them that America has the least connection to. America has participated in the Rugby World Cup, but they've never even made a top 8 appearance yet. So I think it would be cool to see an international sporting event. I mean, even soccer, like the U.S. has made it to pass group play pretty much regularly or semi-regularly. That's not the case for rugby, and it's an action-packed game. It's physical. And mainly, it's a big old party.
You know, I used to love the idea of the Tour de France because of, the dominance that we were seeing from Lance Armstrong, and then, like, the whole steroids thing came along, and it, like, kind of killed my interest in it very quickly. But it's also a case of that, again, just like the Le Mans, it's a case of endurance. Like, you have to be so physically fit to do a cycling event for this long. Like, it is a long, long event. Like, you will wake up one day.
It's like months, isn't it? It's like a month long.
You'll wake up one day and they'll be like, so the Tour de France started today. And then, like, you'll wake up in winter and it'll be like, the Tour de France is still going. It's like, you don't know how it's that long. But that's what impresses me about this. And that's why I would love to cover it. Because I would love to sit down with the winner and say, how did you prepare? How did you get yourself in that frame of mind? Because to me, that's not just, to me, that's not just a physical thing. That's a huge mental hurdle for anybody.
I mean, the fact that these guys don't do it with iPods blows my mind. Or headphones. I mean, what do you think about when you're on a bike for a month?
Well, it's like, to me, it's like the other thing that's like part of this too, that's like an endurance thing, is the Iditarod. You know, like where you're like a dog mushing person. To
go along with the Iditarod and the racing ones that we talked about, like the scenes, to cover that and just see like the scenic view.
You get to see, like, the mountainsides in, like, France.
Yeah,
you get to see, like,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's something that you're not
get a
lot
of
see.
Likes on the gram.
Yeah, you're not going to see that with anything else.
All right, so the biggest parallel in the contest rounds out our fifth matchup. It is the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest versus the New York City Marathon.
These two have nothing in relation to each other.
Aside from taking place in the same state.
Other than the fact that they're in New York.
John, you chose the marathon.
Yeah. Why? You know, I mean, again, marathons to me have always been a point of interest. I think the preparation for it, again, I'm big into the endurance of that.
You've picked endurance every single
I have, because I think it's fascinating to cover that. I think it's fascinating to see what it takes to be great at something like that. Because it's not like if you're a great basketball player, like, yes, there's endurance that's needed, but also, like, if you can shoot threes, like Steph Curry, like, you could be on the floor for 5 minutes and score 15 points. Like, and that doesn't really take much endurance at all. That just takes, like, being able to find the hoop. You know?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, in this case, like, if you're not physically prepared for it...
You have to be able to run 100 miles, really, to win a marathon.
Like, you have to be ready for it.
Yeah.
So, to me, that's why it would be fascinating to cover. Being able to talk to the person one-on-one, talk to people preparing it, get to be a part of that, even go through a day... Like, if I was a reporter, I would love to say, all right, here's what I want to do. I want you to take me through your preparation for it and see how I do against it. I'd be down for the count, like, 5 minutes into it. But to me, that would be fascinating.
Personally, I hate marathons. The Pittsburgh Marathon, when I was covering the Pirates, it shuts down the city, and it's impossible to get into the city. So it's just caused a lot of problems for me. I hate their stupid silver blankets that they wear afterwards. Anyway, I'll probably... I think I'm going to try to run a 10K for this upcoming... Because I've ran 5Ks, and I'm a bit of a runner, not a great one, but this one, you talked about endurance. Talk about the endurance of a body eating like 70 hot dogs in
Joey Chestnut!
10 minutes. That is one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. Not kidding, and I know it's a big joke because it's just eating hot dogs. But when you think of someone who's eating 70 hot dogs, you think of like a sumo wrestler. But these guys are normal-looking dudes. I mean, Kobayashi was someone smaller than me. Like a 5'3" Asian guy that weighed 100 pounds, and he could just house these things. It's impressive, the strategy that they use. And you talk about preparation, what gets them ready for this? What do you do to prepare your body to eat 20 freaking 70 hot dogs, or whatever it is? I never miss that event. I watch it every year on the 4th of July.
You just sit on your ass and eat hot dogs all year.
I mean, it's the best. It is so much fun. And that's something, you want to talk about an atmosphere to, I don't feel like it'd be that fun to attend a marathon. Like, there we go. That was your experience. I mean, I guess you could party and cheer people on the side of the road, but Coney Island looks rocking on the 4th of July.
There's no doubt. But, like, that's
out of all of these, I think that I would probably choose the hot dog eating. Aside from the Olympics and the World Cup, I think the Nathan's Hot Dog would be the third event I would want to attend probably the most. And then maybe the Grand Prix the fourth.
See, I would love to say that I would attend any of these.
I would
just
too.
For the experience.
100,000%.
But also, in the case of the hot dog eating contest, you had a point where it's like, some of these guys, they just come in there and they're just like...
I love it.
Just gamers.
Yes.
Like, they just go at it.
Yes.
I mean, there is a mental side to that, too. Like, you have to be like, I'm going to feel like crap after this.
It's to me, that's something that should be taught in every marketing class in the United States.
One last thing I heard about the famous Nathan's thing is that apparently some of those guys, so like they wet the bun with like water.
Yeah.
But then like they wet the hot dog too, and a lot of these guys just swallow the hot dog whole. It just slides down their throat, which again like makes me queasy.
Yeah.
Just thinking about it.
You think?
And like Joey Chestnut did like 70 of those.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, that's tough. Noah's no doubters. We went 2-1 on Friday. We're
did well.
7-7 on the year. We're gonna go Florida Panthers money line -150, Xavier -2, and North Carolina +3.5. The Tar Heels against Notre Dame on the road, but I still like their chances. John, until next time, brother. I'm Noah Hiles. He is
John Bozkea, it's been a pleasure.
It has been. Thanks for listening to Lunchtime.